if you want something you've never had, sometimes it means doing something you've never done. And so when people say, I've tried everything, I always say, that's no way. Um, there's no way you could try everything. There's 25 possibilities, and people forget that there's not just like this or this, this or this. There's a whole world of options and possibilities. We feel like we've tried everything because we feel defeated or overwhelmed or like things aren't working the way we want them to, or they're not working fast enough. And so it's easy to feel a sense of like, oh, I've tried everything because it's only everything that's been in your mind or that you've been exposed to thus far. I've had so many intakes with clients where they're like, yes, I'm ready. Yes, I'm willing. Yes, I'm committed. And yes, let's do this. And they're about to jump. And then we'll get on a call again. And they're like, well, I have time and I don't have money and I don't have this and I don't. And it's like, those are just the ego fear voices that come up. So what I do with this person might be a little different than what I do with this other person. Some of the things are similar, but how it relates to me is that it's we're going to work with what your life is, what your patterns and habits are, what your lifestyle is, what your actual goals, vision are for yourself that are unique to you. It doesn't mean that I couldn't work with 20 people who have some similarities and some things in common, and still the configuration of all these parts are what make you uniquely you, that no one else can be quite the same. So the way it's different is that I'm working with somebody and their story, their stories, their goals, their patterns, their desires, their ability to connect with themselves or desire to go deeper with themselves or whatever it is. So that it's bio individual. Not everybody works in that kind of way. Not everyone makes the time for that. Not everyone listens to the person enough to really hear under the message. And I always talk with my clients about what the message is under the message, what's actually being said or seen or felt that isn't that other people may not work that way. There's resistance along the way. That's fine. Let's work with what that resistance is, and then we'll get through it. But let's work with it. Let's use it in like alchemy, like it's its own. The resistance becomes its own gift in the equation. We'll incorporate that. It brings its own life force in a weird way, even though it feels like a stumbling block. It brings its own intelligence, actually, that we'll work with. Like I had a client, and when that resistance came up, it it was like, don't be scared of this. Let's find out what's really going on. What is happening with the resistance here? And there's always something that's to be revealed in that resistance, and it's really important for it to be heard. I was working with this client who found she had tremendous amount of anxiety and resistance and fears that were coming up as we were starting to get into things. And instead of listening to some of the messaging from herself, she started outsourcing and only and when she was listening to other people's fears and other people's who weren't even part of her process, just they were giving her lots of different opinions and ideas, and she started listening more to them and to their fears and insecurities and whatever else instead of her own experience and her own really unique story and her life story and her feeling in her own body and trusting her own gut. uh she was outsourcing that. So then when she started to come back into herself and listen to the wisdom in her own body and trusting the messages of her gut, her own instinct, there's a there's a mix of and fine lines between instinct, intuition, and those were intermingling. And so she was going with when she started listening to her gut and her instinct and her intuition, that she realized that those answers were right for her. And allowing herself to trust them took a little while to get to, but it really did bring her back to herself and to being able to continue to move forward and do the work. And that was big. That was really, really big and very bold and brave, and a way that she could start getting more comfortable within her own body. And as a result, actually, she had way less anxiety, much more calm and ease, way more strengthening of the relationship she was in because she wasn't giving all her power and energy away. So it had some really cool effects that she wouldn't have expected.